Indigenous communities face the most pressing social and economic problems in Canada: poverty, unemployment, youth suicide, poor public health, food insecurity, inadequate housing, and more. Solutions to these problems often fall short because of a funding model that fails in two ways. Government contracts external business from outside the community to fix problems, creating no capacity for communities. Government also contracts nonprofits and charities in a colonial, inflexible, compliance-based relationship that leads to small-scale, incomplete solutions. The cost of human and financial problems continues to grow. Raven Indigenous Capital Partners, Canada's first Indigenous social finance intermediary, works with Indigenous communities and enterprises to develop innovative financial tools that address critical social, financial, and environmental challenges and policy barriers to their solutions. Raven believes that we have to rethink how we approach social problems in order to make lasting change in our communities. Indigenous communities and knowledge have to be at the center of an approach that is owned by the community. Solutions will then work over time and be scalable across many communities. In 2017, Raven, Aki Energy, the McConnell Foundation, Community Foundations of Canada, and others co-created a social innovation lab. The lab addressed the policy barriers that prevent Indigenous communities from accessing clean, renewable sources of energy that would create on-reserve capacity, employment, and energy sovereignty. Out of the lab process, Raven created the Community-Driven Outcomes Contract, or CDOC. It's a renewable energy CDOC in Manitoba First Nations for geothermal installations that benefits the community, entrepreneurs, and investors. Here is how it works. The CDOC launched with an innovative lab process where community members said the outcomes that mattered most were completed geothermal installations, employee training, job creation, energy savings, and reduction of social assistance costs. Raven mapped the community's desired outcomes to an innovative outcomes rate card. The rate card shows two levels of environmental and social outcomes. Level 1 outcomes include energy savings, GHG footprint reduction, and jobs created. Level 2 outcomes include the value of taking people off of social assistance because of job training and job creation. Level 1 and 2 outcomes are combined for a total outcome value. Impact investors are informed by the outcomes rate card. Every $1 million invested in the CDOC by impact investors helps generate an overall outcome value of $1.8 million. The CDOC offers a competitive 4% rate of return, better than many bonds and GICs. Next, Raven contracted Aki Energy as the service provider to complete the installations of the geothermal units. Aki trained Indigenous workers to install, maintain, and troubleshoot the units, and the geothermal units were installed in 3 First Nation communities in Manitoba. After installation is complete, an independent Indigenous verification agent verifies the outcomes. The outcomes purchasers for the renewable energy CDOC are agencies interested in achieving the outcomes specified on the rate card, including federal and provincial governments. For every $1 million invested, outcomes purchasers will pay approximately $1.2 million for outcomes valued at $1.8 million. Each outcomes purchaser saves money because the CDOC addresses issues that would cost them much more to solve downstream. For example, fewer people on social assistance saves the government money. Raven, as the intermediary, ensures flow of communication and capital, as well as stewarding the relationships between all parties. The CDOC provides benefits to the community, impact investors, and outcomes purchasers. Community benefits include access to investment capital, a sustainable community development model, and multiple community outcomes, including reduced utility costs, Indigenous workers receiving training and employment, reduced social assistance and healthcare costs, and increased individual and community pride. Impact investors benefit from reduced risk, a return on investment of 4%, opportunities to scale measured impact, and new relationships with Indigenous communities. Outcomes purchasers only pay for success and benefit from economies of scale that generate exponential savings over time, enable support for specific outcomes of interest, benefit from incentives for investment in future outcomes, and are part of the creation of a more sustainable social purpose finance model. The CDOC is a game-changing model because it centers the community's needs and for its massive scalability potential. Scalability leads to system-level outcomes, including multi-million-dollar direct investment into communities, improved economic well-being for Indigenous families, increased Indigenous leadership in social enterprise, and reduced social assistance costs. In southern Manitoba and Saskatchewan, there are around 10,000 Indigenous homes that could use geothermal, and Manitoba Hydro has already requested 750 more geothermal units. CDOCs could be used in other geographical areas with different energy resources, such as wind and solar. CDOCs could also be used outside the energy sector. For example, there is considerable scale and return potential in finding solutions for diabetes in Indigenous communities. At the request of community and philanthropy, Raven has targeted diabetes as a first area in which to replicate the CDOC model. The CDOC is an innovative, culturally responsible alternative to the current funding model. It represents an innovation in social finance that has the potential to unlock lasting, positive social, economic, and environmental outcomes in Indigenous communities. To get involved and find out more about the Community-Driven Outcomes Contract, go to ravencapitalpartners.ca or contact Raven.